The main plot for Season of the Risen has likely just concluded this week, as these things just keep getting better and better. It first begins with Hive lightbearers partnering with Caiatl and her scions to read their minds, and a crazy showdown on the moon to reveal the truth. Along the way, Saladin and Zavala lead us into battle while CROWS struggles with events of his past, doing something this week that is just quite haunting. Welcome on in, everybody. Let's talk about Season of the Risen's mind-blowing plot. So I'm going to start by mentioning I think this is the conclusion for the main storyline this season. The Operation Elbrus quest is complete, and we had a pretty sick mission to go along with it, which makes it seem like it's the end. There may be other secret missions and legendary versions of the PSYOPs later this season, but my bet is the main part of this is over. There may also be some other things like terminal entries as seen in the Triumphs, but what just went down is pretty important and I wanted to make a video on it. So it's no big deal if the season keeps going with some minor subplots, but keep that in mind, we'll just cover those on their own. I also will be uploading the full story with no commentary if you'd like to watch that in a mini movie format. It might be out tomorrow, it might already be up today, regardless the link will be in the description. Season of the Risen begins after the events of the Witch Queen's campaign. Hive lightbearers are now a thing and threaten our existence and the people in our city. Zavala remembers how powerful Caiatl and her scions were back in Season of the Chosen, and with the possibility of light suppressive device and technology, perhaps they could be of use.
We can all prevent future losses if we choose to put the incident on Mars behind us and work together. What we discovered there is a threat to both humanity and the Cabal.
You want my help?
Want is a strong word.
You need my help.
I don't know how the Hive came into possession of the light. My core will find out. But in the meantime...
You want us to hit them.
I need us to hit them. Hard.
Caiatl gives us the Synaptic Spear, a light-suppressing Cabal device which we weaponize against those new light-infused Hive enemies. The goal is to find a Hive commander under the command of Savathun and force it into the Scion's mindscape, a realm where Scions can learn truths and experiment on test subjects. If we succeed, here we can connect our light to that of the Hive and weaken it, hopefully allowing us and the Psion to learn what the Lucent Brood are after. The first mission brought us to the European Dead Zone, where Saladin says Guardians were caught unprepared and we are sent in as backup. When we arrive, all the Guardians are dead and the Hive have been siphoning their light, collecting it for unknown means.
Those must be our missing Guardians. They're not just dead. They've been drained of their light. We got the hunting party, but I don't see any high-ranking targets.
I'll dispatch a recovery team for the bodies. In the meantime, secure the sector and track down their leader.
After the mission, we are kinda successful. We managed to capture the Hive enemy and get information from its scans, but it's not enough to reveal their full plan. So Saladin wants us to capture more Hive and work with the Scions to uncover this mystery. These Hive lightbearers want to be just like us, to overthrow us and become the new Guardians, so they must be stopped at all costs. Along this journey at the beginning here, Crow begins to have some issues. The last we seen of this character was in Season of the Lost, and he learned about the truth in his past as Aldrin Solve and kinda got scared and ran away. Here he is now returning, having to deal with that past while trying to find a new life as Crow. Saladin says this.
We have to trust that we share a common enemy with the Empress.
Every instinct I have is telling me to strike. Centuries of conditioning. But instincts can lie.
If I had told you just a handful of years ago that we'd have a Guardian who was once Aldrin Solve here in the tower, a catch docked in the city and the beginnings of an alliance with the Cabal?
I'd have locked you up.
You and Ikora both.
On that note, Crow. He's undisciplined. No respect for the chain of command. And now, with Uldren's memories, do you honestly think that behavior will improve?
You're not wrong. But he stepped up time and again when lives are on the line, including mine.
Oh, we can't afford mistakes now. Won't survive them.
I know. I also know you're willing to take chances on someone who's a risk.
He's dangerously overconfident.
So was I.
You were different. Times were different.
They were. But I changed thanks to you.
Now during this week of content, we also have the Vox Obscura mission, where we're sent in to track down some Psions that have defected to Emperor Callus. This exotic mission was quite cool, but it kind of feels like it fits on its own, so there'll be a future video on that specifically. After some time, the Psion was able to reveal the next move of the Lucent Brood, the Cosmodrome, stockpiling light from dead Guardians, so we head there to investigate.
Our previous subjects were unable to provide a full view of Lucent Hive activities. We need more.
Maybe we need more persuasive methods.
Analyzing the Hive for intelligence they don't have is useless.
Empress Caiatl is right. Get in there and secure another Hive Lieutenant Guardian. Those receptacles are filled with stolen light. They're using it as a power source.
Avenge your comrades, Guardian.
At the end of that mission, Caiatl and Crow speak about Savathuns Hive. Crow wants to learn the truth, but is weary about how Caiatl is going about this situation.
I'd like to know what the Lucent Hive are planning. I feel like I've been dancing to Savathuns' song for too long.
Whatever the Witch Queen's scheme, my Psions will uncover it.
Using mind control tactics against Savathun seems risky.
The minds of my Psions are hard as bone and fluid as blood. They will not be mistaken.
We meet in the helm to find Saladin and Crow conversing in a new wing, an area that was specifically set up for Caiatl's Psions to experiment on the captured Hive, diving into their minds through these telepathic powers that Psions have. Again, Crow doesn't like this one bit.
Do you think it hurts?
Hurts.
I could feel Savathun behind my eyes when she reached into my mind. What do you think these Hive feel when we reach into theirs?
I also find the Psion's methods unsettling, but they can uncover Savathun's plans more efficiently than I ever could.
Better to just put them out of their misery.
Caiatl believes these Hive might hold deeper secrets. Do not make the mistake of thinking these things deserve your sympathy.
Even though they have the light.
Maybe you were the wrong person to put on this assignment.
They may be our enemies, but this feels like a new low for the Vanguard. For Zavala.
Watch your mouth.
Saladin is angered by the situation. The Hive are killing Guardians in cold blood, and Crow wants to know if it's hurting the Hive that we're experimenting on them. Saladin speaks to Zavala about this issue with Crow. Zavala says that Saladin must work with him, help him in his time of struggle like he helped Zavala all that time ago.
Did you assure him that they aren't suffering?
It was a stupid question.
Saladin.
There's no answer I could have given that would satisfy him. He sees himself in them, like he sees himself in Uldren.
How do you know this?
I asked Caiatl's Psion. He is.
And who helped me find that strength? When I was at my lowest. Crow is grieving. For himself, for the innocence he's lost. For the price of the truth.
He's going to hurt himself, or worse, hurt someone else.
You've always been more than a soldier, Saladin. You're a protector. So protect.
Saladin encourages us to fight once more through the psyops, to put a dent in the forces of the Lucent brood, and as we do that, he meets with the Scion in the helm and has a nice connection, learning how this creature is pretty close to Caiatl and that it truly wants to help humanity, unlike other defectors seen in Season of the Chosen. At the end of this meeting, Saladin says maybe Crow should speak to this Scion, maybe it would help him feel better, and I'm not so sure about that. In the final week, we learn the truth of the Hive's plan. They want to retake the Scarlet Keep on the moon and claim it for themselves, use it to manifest Savathuns Throne World through a giant portal, and if this happens, they could next invade Earth. On the moon, we jump into a fight alongside Caiatl's forces. Her warships can be seen in the skybox and it looks pretty cool. Saladin calls for Crow's scouting capabilities, but he's missing, nowhere to be found. Caiatl sends one of her own into the battle to help us, a Valis who fights alongside us through the remainder of the mission.
The Lucent Hive are attempting to retake the Witch Queen's position on your moon.
Transporting an invasion force of this size must require a massive hive ritual.
Crow, do you have eyes on the ritual? Crow, do you read me? Damn it.
Push forward without it. We can't split our focus while the Lucent Hive are staging an invasion.
I'm deploying a Brockus to assist you, Guardian. We are one coalition, and we strike with one fist.
Is Crow confirmed? Is that our target?
He's still missing.
My scions confirm. Target acquired.
Engage, but do not destroy, Guardian.
Once my warriors send you into the mindscape, you may be as brutal as you wish.
Well done. The invasion is halted. For now.
A feat made possible by the Guardian and my psionic warriors, who have proven their worth yet again.
When the Lucent Hive make their next move, the vanguard of the Empire will stop it. Together.
Let's not put the tongue before the tusk, small man. Trust is still being built. But for today, at least, I am happy to share a victory.
Someone needs to track down Crow. I'll see you back at the tower.
In the end, the Lucent Hive's plan is foiled and the Vanguard and Cabal stand united, stronger than ever. The mission is done and the day is saved, but Crow was missing this whole time, so he rushed back to the helm to learn why. Crow pulled up his hood and watched as the Guardian's ship roared out of the hangar to race after Caiatl's flagship on the way to the Scarlet Keep. He kept to the shadows as he made his way up to the helm, pushing through the throngs in the bazaar with an easy grace, inconspicuous even in his recognizable garb. His light movements belied the twist of guilt in his stomach. Saladin had requested him to handle recon on the mission, yet here he was, creeping instead through the tower like a common thief. There would be consequences, of course, but he could accept that. We all have to make sacrifices, he thought. He held his breath as he opened the doors to the Sensorium. As they clicked shut behind him, he threw back his hood and allowed himself a sigh and a smile. Crow looked up at the Lucent Hive suspended in the holding tanks. Not dead, but certainly not alive. The Scion sat in its chair, twitching faintly, its long fingers moving as though tracing through water. Pulses of blue energy radiated out from the Scion's skull and into the depths of the machine. "I've got some news," Crow said pleasantly to the Scion as he passed. The Scion, as always, said nothing. Crow didn't mind. It probably took all of its energy to keep the Hive preserved well enough to skim through their memories. "This war is over thanks to you," Crow continued. "They sent the Guardian, and when the Guardian sets out to do something, it gets done." The skin on his neck prickled at an old memory. "Believe me." Crow approached a display interface covered in Cabal runes. He paged through the menus until he saw the familiar Vanguard symbol nestled in a corner. He pressed it, and the language on the screen changed. He shook his head in wonder. Imagine what we'll be able to make in the future when we're not busy squeezing secrets from the Hive. Crow frowned, looking up at the holding tanks. After all this ugliness is behind us, he said and resumed scrolling through the menus. Now how do we shut this thing down? He found his answer in a hidden directory of commands. Security, override, shutdown, immediate. He paused for a moment, imagining what Saladin's reaction would be, but he, of all people, should understand. After all, Crow said quietly to himself, the right path isn't always easy to find. Crow executed the command. He walked toward the Psion as the lights in the machine began to turn red in sequence. Let's get you out of here, friend, he said as the Psion began to stir. It blinked slowly and opened its eye. Crow smiled and waved. Good morning, he said. Would you like to get some ramen? The pulsing current running through the tubes in the back of the Psion's head slowed, and Crow winced as a white-hot pinpoint of pain stabbed into his mind, shrieking a single word, clear and impossibly loud. Stop. The machine sputtered, sparks erupted from the central hub, cracks spiderwebbed across the holding tanks, electricity arced from one control panel and Crow staggered backwards. Without warning, the energy current in the tube suddenly reversed. Waves of blue quickly flowed back toward the Psion. He was pulling at the cables connecting him to the chair when the first blast of feedback hit him. His body spasmed with pain. Wave after wave of psionic energy pounded into the base of the Psion's skull. His muscles stood out in sharp relief as he pulled against the cables, his hands desperate claws, his face stretched with terror. The pulses thrummed faster and the Psion began to scream, a high, thin noise. He beat at his own head with one spindly hand and reached the other out toward Crow. Crow reached back as another wave of energy hit the Psion, bursting his retina, turning his eye into a muddy black sphere. Crow recoiled in horror, his mind pierced by unimaginable pain, and he fell to the floor in a heap. The machine groaned, hissing smoke. The holding tanks boiled, the hive bodies inside dancing grotesquely in the roiling fluid. The blaring sirens began to overpower the hoarse, sustained screaming. Something snapped inside the machine, and it shuddered to a stop. And finally, silence.
Crow, what happened?
I didn't mean to.
A full abort sequence initiated from this location. What have you done?
I shut it down. I didn't know it would kill the Psion.
Caiatl sends an emissary to the tower, and you kill him. Can you even understand the repercussions this will have?
I'll face them. What the Vanguard was doing here wasn't right.
It's not your place to judge.
You said the right path can be hard to find, but when you do, you have to be strong enough to walk it.
I also said mercy to an enemy must not come at the cost of their victims.
We already disrupted Savathun's ritual on the moon. I couldn't stand by while we did this to these Hive.
The Hive are monsters.
So was I.
When Caiatl learns of this, I hope the Vanguard can survive your conscience.
You understand, don't you?
So Crow aborted the sequence, shutting down the device the Psion was connected to, and he ends up killing it. He was so upset that this might have been hurting the Hive, experimenting and looking into their minds, that he turned the machine off and killed the thing that was one of Caiatl's closest emissaries and friends. In a final cutscene, Caiatl says Crow must pay for this betrayal. She says the Cabal want a life for a life. Zavala of course disagrees, and as Caiatl is about to kill Crow, Saladin jumps in. The one who's been against Crow this whole time says that he will honor Caiatl's cabal instead of taking Crow's life. Caiatl rewards Saladin's bravery, and in return, Saladin will serve the rest of his days among her war council as Brachus Forge. He accepts this command.
How do you justify the innocent blood on your hands? It was honorable.
It was an accident.
The Cabal word for accident has 2 syllables. One is fault, the other responsibility. Honor the scion whose life was taken. A life for a life. That is our way.
That is your way, not ours.
You will not deny us justice!
Do what you believe is right. I did.
I will honor you. You demand a life for a life. Take mine.
Cabal reward bravery in the face of death. I accept. Your life is forfeit. You will serve the rest of your days on my war council as Brachus Forge.
Then it's done.
Zavala, you can't...
Not a word.
Saladin feels that this is right. He chose to join Caiatl and her council, and in the end he leaves Crow his battle axe, one he has used since he became an Iron Lord to defend his people. So this story once again is incredible, and the seasonal narrative team deserves a massive round of applause for the continued story we get week after the main expansion has been out. To me, even the little hints found this season were a great addition, like first seeing the Scion room all lit up and in working function, then the Scion dies, he's hunched over in the chair, and lastly, everything is shut down and the room is eerily dark and abandoned. The alliance with Caiatl and the Cabal grows stronger with Saladin at her side. Zavala and Ikora have stood against the Lucent Brood, and we are hopeful for the future. Hopefully Crow can be too if he changes his attitude. Anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video, a recap of the Season of the Risen story, as things have seemed to come to a close quite early. Again, more may unfold in the coming weeks, and if they do, you'll see some videos on those as well. If you'd like to see some other Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, my name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.